The small human exploration ship named Star Runner moved slowly through the silent darkness of space as if it were an exhausted traveler searching for the nearest place to rest. For weeks the ship had drifted without proper engines and without proper power. The crew had survived on emergency rations and weak signals of hope while their ship kept shaking and groaning with every passing hour. Captain Rhea Walker stood at the front window watching the stars fade one by one as the ship slipped into a strange new system that was not on any map. Her eyes were tired but sharp. She hoped that maybe this system had a planet with oxygen or even water, or maybe only a place to land before the Star Runner completely died. The crew behind her whispered quietly, trying not to show fear. They all knew the truth. One more week in space and the ship would simply stop working forever. Lieutenant Harris studied the cracked screen of the navigation panel. The panel flickered like a candle ready to go out. He tried to adjust settings, but nothing helped. The system map that should have shown nearby planets displayed only one blinking green light, and even that light kept fading. He said to the captain that there was only one possible world within landing range. They did not know anything about it, but it looked green from orbit, which meant it might support life. Captain Rhea made the decision without hesitation because she had no other choice. She ordered the ship toward the planet, hoping it would help them and not destroy them. As the Star Runner approached the planet, something strange happened. A strong signal washed over the ship like a silent wave. It made every light flicker and every sensor jump. The crew looked around in confusion because the ship suddenly changed direction on its own. Rhea grabbed the side rail, trying to stay balanced as the ship tilted sharply. Harris shouted that the navigation system was no longer responding. It felt like the planet itself was pulling them down. No one spoke for a moment as they all realized this was not normal gravity. Something powerful was pulling the Star Runner from the skies like a giant invisible hand. Below on the planet's surface, the Valari outpost noticed a bright object falling toward them. The Valari were tall blue-skinned aliens known for strict order and strong pride. They had never seen a human before. The moment they saw the burning streak crossing the clouds, they believed that an enemy ship had launched an attack on their territory. The Valari commander shouted orders and soldiers rushed into defensive positions. Sirens echoed through the valley and towers came alive with energy weapons. To them this falling ship was not a damaged vessel begging for help but a threat. The Star Runner hit the atmosphere, shaking like a leaf in a storm. Panels popped loose and sparks flew across the bridge. The crew held on to anything they could grab. Rhea shouted for emergency landing mode and Harris tried activating it, but the controls refused to answer. Smoke filled the room and alarms screamed. The planet came closer and closer until the ship finally hit the ground with a violent crash. Metal twisted, groaned and broke. Dust shot into the air, covering everything in a thick brown cloud. Inside the ship people groaned in pain, but they were alive, which felt like a small miracle. The humans did not know that outside hundreds of Valari soldiers surrounded the crash site. Their weapons glowed with blue energy and they waited for what they believed was an invasion force. The soldiers hid behind rocks and armored vehicles, watching the silent crashed ship with shaking hands. No one wanted to make the first move, but they were ready to fire the moment anything came out. The Valari commander gave the order to prepare for battle. The humans had no idea that they were now the center of a massive misunderstanding that could decide the future of the entire planet. Inside the ship, Captain Rhea ordered the crew to activate the weak defense shield. It was the only thing still working. The shield flickered like a broken light, but it rose around the ship just in time because the Valari fired the first shot. A bolt of blue energy hit the shield and spread across it like water hitting glass. The humans jumped in surprise. They did not want to fight, but they were now under attack by an unknown enemy. Harris stared at the shield readings. It barely had enough power to stay active, but somehow it held against the alien weapons. The attackers outside did not understand how the humans were still untouched. To them this looked like advanced technology beyond anything they had ever seen. Whispers spread among the Valari soldiers. They believed they were facing a powerful enemy capable of blocking military weapons with ease. Fear grew. The humans inside only saw warning lights blinking red. The shield was seconds away from failing. Captain Rhea knew they had to scare the attackers long enough to talk and explain the situation. She ordered Harris to fire a warning shot away from the soldiers, but the damaged ship misfired. Instead of a small harmless flash, the Star Runner released a burst of energy that hit a Valari armored vehicle and destroyed it completely. The explosion echoed across the valley as soldiers ran for cover. The humans stared at the monitors in shock. They did not mean to do this. They only wanted to survive. But to the Valari, it looked like the humans had just revealed terrifying power. And this accident would change everything on the planet forever. The explosion of the Valkyrie armored vehicle sent a shockwave through the entire outpost, and the ground shook as the burning machine toppled over. Smoke rose into the sky like a black pillar, and the bright flames reflected on the blue skin of the Valkyrie soldiers, who stared in pure disbelief. None of them understood what had just happened. The humans inside the crashed ship were confused, scared, and barely holding their weak systems together, but to the Valkyrie it looked like the humans had fired some unstoppable weapon that could destroy anything with a single blast. Fear spread among the soldiers faster than the flames from the wrecked vehicle. Some Valkyrie whispered to each other, asking how a small damaged craft could unleash so much destruction, while others stepped back with trembling hands, unsure if they should continue fighting or run away to safety. Inside, the Star Runner Captain Rhea was trying to make sense of the sudden blast. She kept asking Harris what went wrong, but Harris himself had no answers. The ship was damaged in every part, and even the weapon system was behaving like it had a mind of its own. The crew looked around with panic growing in their eyes because they knew the aliens outside would now think they were dangerous. Rhea ordered everyone to stay calm and hold their positions. She hoped the aliens would stop attacking long enough to allow a peaceful communication attempt, but she also knew that fear often made enemies do foolish things. Outside, the Valkyrie commander was struggling to control his troops. He shouted for them to fall back and reorganize. The soldiers moved with quick steps, trying to put distance between themselves and the mysterious human ship. Some carried the injured, while others dragged damaged equipment. The commander himself stared at the crash site with wide glowing eyes. His mind raced as he tried to understand the threat. If this small human vessel could destroy a Valkyrie armored vehicle without even opening its doors, then what kind of power did a full human army possess? The idea frightened him more than he wanted to admit. Reports traveled quickly across the Valkyrie communication network. From outpost to city, from city to regional command, every station repeated the same message about a new unknown enemy that had arrived from the sky. Panic spread like a chain reaction. Civilians locked themselves inside their homes, market streets emptied, and military bases moved into full alert mode. No one knew how many humans had landed. No one knew if more ships were coming. Rumors grew louder with every passing minute. Some claimed the humans were unstoppable conquerors, while others said they were ancient beings returning to reclaim the galaxy. Back inside the Star Runner, the humans finally managed to restore a part of the external cameras. The screens flickered, showing blurry shapes moving around outside. Rhea watched the shapes pull back instead of attacking again. She realized the aliens were scared, and she tried to use this moment of confusion to open communication. Harris attempted to activate the signal transmitter, but the device sparked and shut down immediately. Their only hope for peaceful contact was broken. The humans were stuck inside with no way to talk, and the aliens were outside imagining all kinds of threats. The shield around the Star Runner flickered again. It was becoming weaker by the second. Rhea ordered everyone to check damage levels and prepare for the worst, because the shield could fail at any moment. If the aliens started shooting again, the humans would not survive another attack. They simply did not have enough power left. The crew worked quickly trying to stabilize systems, but nothing responded fully. The ship was like a wounded beast breathing its last breaths. Still, the humans kept trying because giving up was not an option. Meanwhile, the Valkyrie commander prepared a cautious approach. He gathered scouts and ordered them to move forward very slowly. These scouts were nervous, but they followed the order because they believed their commander had a plan. They took careful steps toward the crash site with weapons drawn and eyes fixed on the silent human vessel. They expected another blast at any moment. Their hearts raced and sweat formed along their foreheads as they neared the ship. One of the scouts touched his communicator and whispered that the shield around the enemy craft appeared unstable. The commander assumed this was another strategic trick by the humans to lure them closer. The scouts reached a position where they could see inside a broken part of the hull. They saw shadows moving. To them, these shadows looked like coordinated soldiers preparing a second attack. They quickly reported this to the commander, who now believed that the humans were getting ready to launch another destructive strike. Fear mixed with desperation in his mind as he prepared orders. He did not want to lose more soldiers, but he also did not want to appear weak. A wrong decision could lead to disaster for the entire planet. At that same moment, inside the Star Runner, Rhea and her crew were simply trying to lift a fallen support beam to free a trapped engineer. They grunted and pushed with all their strength. Their movements looked heavy and tense, which made the scouts misinterpret everything. The scouts watched the crew lifting the beam and assumed it was a human weapon. They immediately reported that the humans were charging some new device. The commander pulled back even more troops, believing he was facing a very advanced species that could crush them without effort. More confusion followed. The humans attempted to create a light signal, hoping the aliens would understand they wanted peace, but the damaged lights flickered in a strange, unstable pattern. To the Valari, it looked like another kind of threat signal. The commander ordered a full retreat to safer ground. The soldiers ran across the valley, stumbling in panic as the humans inside watched the movement with complete confusion. By now the entire Valari region believed the humans were terrifying conquerors. Fear turned into wild stories. Some claimed the humans could turn mountains into dust. Others said the humans were invisible energy beings who wore metal bodies. Every rumor made the situation worse. Rhea looked at her exhausted crew and understood that communication was failing in the worst possible way. They were trapped in a misunderstanding that could ignite a war. She needed a new plan before the aliens returned. The humans had only one chance left to survive on this strange planet, and they had no idea that every step they took was only making the Valari more afraid. The sun was beginning to rise over the strange planet, and its orange light spread slowly across the valley, revealing the wreck of the Star Runner and the frightened Valari troops hiding behind rocks and vehicles. The burning remains of the destroyed armored transport still smoked, and the smell of scorched metal filled the air. The Valari soldiers had not slept through the night because they feared the humans would attack again. Every unusual sound made them jump and clutch their weapons tighter. They waited for a second strike that never came, which only made their fear grow stronger because they believed the humans were planning something far worse. Inside the Star Runner, the humans were exhausted but determined to fix their ship. Captain Rhea had gathered the crew and explained that they needed to stabilize the core, repair the broken life support, and find some way to send a peaceful signal before the aliens outside made another move. Harris was busy trying to reconnect the shattered wires under the control panel. Sparks jumped toward his gloves every few seconds, and the smell of burnt plastic filled the air, but he kept working because he knew time was running out. Rhea checked the shield again and saw that it was almost gone. At any moment the shield might fail, completely leaving the humans exposed to another alien attack. She tried to hide her fear from the crew because she needed them to stay focused. Outside, the Valari commander was meeting with his officers. They stood around a glowing blue map showing the crash site from above. The commander believed the humans were waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He told his officers that the single blast from the human ship had been too powerful to ignore and they must prepare for a large-scale invasion. His officers exchanged nervous glances because they had never faced a threat like this. One of them suggested calling reinforcements from nearby cities, and the commander agreed. Soon more Valari troops began moving toward the crash site, unaware that the humans inside were barely able to stand. As the morning passed, the Star Runner shook again. Harris reported that the unstable energy core was rising in temperature and might explode if they did not release some pressure. Rhea ordered him to reroute the power through the outer vents. Harris warned that the vents were partially damaged and might not handle the release safely, but Rhea insisted. She knew that if the core exploded it would kill everyone on board and possibly half the valley outside. They had no other option. Harris prepared the system while Rhea held her breath. When Harris activated the reroute, the ship trembled and a bright burst of energy exploded upward into the sky through the broken vent. The burst made a loud echoing sound that rolled across the mountains. To the humans, it was simply a desperate attempt to save their ship. To the Valari, it looked like another attack. The sudden beam of light shot into the air and the ground vibrated beneath their feet. Soldiers screamed that the humans were launching another deadly weapon. The commander fell backward as his map device flickered from the energy wave. He ordered everyone to take defensive positions. Soldiers ran in every direction, trying to hide behind anything solid. Some even threw themselves to the ground, believing the humans were preparing to destroy the entire valley. Back inside the Star Runner, the crew cheered as the core finally calmed down. Rhea felt a small wave of relief, but it faded quickly when she looked at the external cameras. Dozens of alien troops were now moving rapidly around the valley. The energy burst had frightened them even more. She realized they needed a peaceful signal stronger than anything they had tried before. They had to show the aliens they meant no harm. She ordered the crew to use the last bit of battery power to activate the old emergency beacon. It was a simple device that sent a repeating signal of distress. It was not fancy or advanced, but it was honest. Harris connected the cables and activated it. A soft repeating pulse echoed into the air like a rhythmic heartbeat. The Valari soldiers heard the pulse, but they misinterpreted it completely. They thought the humans were calling for their army. They believed the humans had sent a message to summon larger ships or more powerful weapons. The rumors spread like fire. Some soldiers shouted that the humans were bringing a fleet. Others ran to inform the commander that the humans had begun an invasion countdown. The commander felt sweat drip down his back as he imagined a sky full of human warships ready to destroy everything. In reality, the humans were simply asking for help. More tension built in the valley as the Valari prepared for a battle they did not want but felt forced to fight. The commander raised his arm, giving the order for a slow, cautious advance. The soldiers moved forward one step at a time, weapons aimed at the damaged human ship. Every footstep sent dust into the air. Every moment increased the chance of another misunderstanding. Rhea saw the soldiers gathering again. She felt the fear spread through her chest. She called out to the crew, telling them to stay close and prepare for a possible breach. She grabbed a small flashlight and held it up, hoping the aliens would understand she was not a threat if they saw her hands empty. She walked toward the broken side of the ship where sunlight shined through the torn metal. Outside, the Valari commander watched the shadow of a human move toward the opening. He panicked, thinking the humans were advancing. He shouted a warning to his troops, and several soldiers fired instinctively. But their shots did not hit the ship. Instead, they struck a pile of loose rocks above the crash site. The rocks shifted for a moment before tumbling down the hillside. The falling rocks crashed onto a Valari weapons truck, which exploded with a sharp, violent burst. The blast shook the ground and smoke billowed upward. The soldiers fell back in terror, believing once again that the humans had used some hidden weapon. Inside, the Star Runner Rhea stumbled as the shockwave hit the ship. She turned toward Harris and whispered that the aliens must think the humans were unstoppable. Every accident, every mistake, every broken system made the humans look more powerful. And with every misunderstanding, the humans were accidentally gaining control of the entire region without even stepping outside the ship. The explosion of the Valari weapons truck echoed across the wide valley, and the smoke rose like a dark cloud that slowly spread above the ridges. The soldiers who had survived the blast ran in every direction, their voices filled with panic as they shouted warnings to each other. Many of them believed they had just witnessed another attack from the humans. The commander struggled to control the chaos around him, but even he felt a cold wave of fear crawling up his spine. His heart pounded as he stared at the burning truck, and in his mind it was clear that the humans were using precise, unimaginable power. He could not understand how the blast had happened so suddenly and without any visible weapon. In his eyes, this made the humans even more terrifying because they seemed capable of striking without effort and without warning. Within minutes, the commander contacted regional headquarters through his communicator. His voice shook despite all his attempts to sound calm. He reported that the mysterious invaders had now initiated a second attack which had destroyed more Valari equipment. He requested emergency reinforcement and recommended the highest alert level for the entire region. The message was broadcasted instantly and traveled quickly across the Valari communication network. Cities hundreds of kilometers away received the news, and their leaders reacted with fear and confusion. Public broadcasts warned civilians to stay inside their homes, and military zones sealed their gates while alarms echoed through the air. In the capital city, the High Council of the Valari Dominion gathered in a tall crystal tower that overlooked the shining streets below. The council members listened to the commander's report with growing tension. They had never heard of humans. They had no records of their species. To them, humanity was an unknown enemy that had fallen from the sky with impossible abilities. One council member declared that the humans might be the same beings mentioned in old legends of star conquerors. Another argued that the attack was too strong to be accidental and that the humans must be testing their defenses before sending an invasion fleet. The fear in the room grew heavier with every minute, and the council ordered the mobilization of additional armies. Every military base was instructed to prepare for a potential planet-wide conflict. While the entire world panicked, the humans inside the Star Runner were dealing with their own crisis. Captain Rhea inspected the core readings again and felt dread twist in her stomach. The numbers were unstable, and she feared the ship might not last much longer. She ordered the crew to focus on repairs, and she tried once more to create a peaceful signal. Harris suggested building a simple transmitter manually using leftover parts. They gathered broken wires, small battery cells, and a few functional chips. The crew worked together in the dim light of the damaged bridge while the ship groaned in the background like a wounded animal. Sweat rolled down their faces, but they pushed through because communication was the only way to end the misunderstanding. Outside in the valley, the Valari commander watched the human ship closely. He saw faint glimmers of light coming from inside, which he interpreted as more human technology being activated. He assumed the humans were preparing another weapon, and he shouted orders for his soldiers to keep their distance. Some of the soldiers whispered that maybe the humans were testing energy charges. Others said the humans were building a device powerful enough to destroy the capital. Every guess increased their fear. The commander soon noticed that the soldiers were looking at him with wide, desperate eyes. He realized he had to keep them calm, or else panic would spread even faster. However, the panic had already begun spreading far beyond the commander's control. News stations across the Valari planet repeated the same message, that a hostile unknown species had arrived and destroyed military equipment effortlessly. The civilians feared that war was coming. In the Sky Patrol ships flew over cities scanning for any sign of more human vessels. Markets closed, schools shut down, and roads filled with people rushing home. Even the bravest citizens felt helpless because they believed the humans were unstoppable. Back inside, the Star Runner Harris finally finished assembling the makeshift transmitter. The device was crude and held together by tape and hope. He activated it, and a weak steady pulse began to broadcast into the atmosphere. Rhea watched the signal on the monitor. It was a simple repeating pattern meant to show distress and peace. She hoped at least one of the alien soldiers outside would understand. For a moment she allowed herself a small breath of hope. But the Valari soldiers misunderstood again. They heard the repeating pulse and misread it as an encoded command signal. Many believed the humans were calling their fleet. The commander interpreted the pattern as a strategic signal which made him believe the humans were preparing for a large-scale assault. He contacted the High Council, informing them that the invaders were summoning reinforcements. The Council's fear doubled, and they ordered elite forces to gather at the central base. They also called the Storm Legion's ancient warriors who had not been used for decades. The entire planet was preparing for a war that the humans did not even know they had started. Rhea felt her heart sink when she saw the sudden rise of movement outside. More alien transports landed at the edges of the valley, and she could see their shapes through the cameras. Soldiers with heavier armor and larger weapons stepped out. She realized that their peaceful signal had once again been interpreted as something dangerous. She whispered in frustration at the situation and wondered how many misunderstandings it would take before they finally made real contact. For the Valari, the situation grew worse when their scouts reported that the humans were trying to repair their ship. The commanders assumed the humans were preparing it as a weapon platform. The rumors turned into fear, and fear turned into certainty. Some believed the humans had already conquered other worlds and theirs would be next. The Star Runner meanwhile shook as the wind swept across the valley. The crew gathered around Captain Rhea, looking tired and hopeless. She knew they were trapped between fear and confusion. She also knew the aliens were preparing for something huge. The idea that she might have accidentally triggered a war weighed heavily on her mind. Outside, the soldiers tightened their formation and the reinforcements prepared for a standoff that no one wanted. The humans were simply trying to survive, but every move they made looked like a new threat. The entire planet now believed that humanity had arrived to conquer them, and the truth was slipping further away with every passing second. The wind blew across the valley carrying dust and smoke while the sun slowly climbed above the sharp mountain ridges. The Star Runner sat like a wounded creature in the center of the valley, surrounded by thousands of Valari soldiers who watched it with fear mixed with deep uncertainty. Reinforcements continued to arrive, and the bright silver transports landed on distant hills, sending waves of soldiers into formation. Every new arrival increased the tension. The alien forces believed they were preparing to fight an unstoppable invader, and they had no idea that the humans inside the Star Runner were doing everything they could just to keep the lights on. Inside the ship, Captain Rhea held her head in her hands for a moment, trying to think clearly. The air smelled of burnt wires and dust, and every part of the ship felt warm, as if the machine was tired of fighting. Rhea stood and walked slowly toward the cracked window, looking outside at the endless line of alien troops. Her chest tightened because she could see armored carriers, heavy artillery, and flying drones all pointed toward them. Harris stood beside her with worry in his eyes. He explained that the ship had only a few hours of power left unless they could repair the energy core. Rhea listened quietly, knowing that repairing the core with their limited tools was almost impossible. While the humans struggled inside their broken ship, something unexpected was happening among the Valari commanders. The High Council had sent their top diplomat, Lord Varin, to negotiate. The Council feared that if they continued to provoke the humans with more troops, the humans might release an even stronger attack. Lord Varin traveled to the valley in a tall silver transport with guards surrounding him. He was known for calm thinking and clear judgment, but even he felt nervous when he saw the crash site and the remains of destroyed Valari vehicles. He studied the damaged human ship and wondered how such a small vessel carried so much destructive power. When Lord Varin stepped out of his transport, every soldier around lowered their heads. His long black cloak moved gently in the wind as he walked forward, and the sun reflected on his silver crest, showing his high rank. He raised his hand and ordered all troops to move back. Although the soldiers obeyed, they watched nervously, afraid that stepping back might make them appear weak in front of the human invaders. Lord Varin ignored their fear. He wanted clarity, and he wanted peace, because deep inside he believed that those who strike so powerfully sometimes do not strike without reason. As he walked closer to the Star Runner, he held a white crystal rod in his hand. Among the Valari, this rod represented a surrender offering used only when the situation was truly hopeless. He had decided that the safest future for their world was to yield before the humans decided to destroy everything. The scouts whispered to each other in shock because they had never seen the surrender rod used in real life. Some believed this was the only chance for survival. Others felt the shame of surrender, but none of them dared to speak against Lord Varin's decision. Inside, the Star Runner Rhea noticed movement outside. She zoomed the camera closer and saw a single alien approaching alone with a shining rod in his hand. She tried to understand the meaning of the rod, but it was impossible. She only saw that the alien walked calmly without any weapon. Rhea told Harris she was going outside. Harris tried to object, but Rhea shook her head. She knew they could not hide inside the broken ship forever. She took a deep breath, adjusted her damaged suit, and walked toward the exit hatch. The air outside felt strange, almost too warm, but the wind carried the scent of trees and soil, making her realize for the first time that this world was alive and beautiful beneath all the chaos. Lord Varin saw the human captain step out, and he felt a tremor of fear. He had expected a massive warrior, not someone who looked tired and worn. He bowed his head and lifted the crystal rod toward her. Rhea had no idea what this meant. She stepped forward slowly with her hands open to show peace. The moment she came close, Lord Varin lowered himself to one knee. All the soldiers around gasped. Some even dropped their weapons in surprise. Rhea stared in confusion because this alien was kneeling before her as if she were some kind of ruler. Varin spoke in his language, and although the translator device on Rhea's suit struggled with the damaged circuits, it managed to convert enough words for her to understand. The alien was offering surrender. At first Rhea thought she had misunderstood, but the more he spoke, the clearer it became. The Valari believed the humans had arrived to conquer their world. They believed the accidents, explosions, and energy bursts were deliberate displays of power. They believed the Star Runner was only the first wave of a larger human invasion. Rhea felt her stomach twist because the misunderstanding had grown into something so large that she no longer knew how to correct it. Harris stepped out of the ship and froze when he saw dozens of soldiers lowering their weapons as Lord Varin bowed deeply. The moment spread across the valley like a silent shock. Valari soldiers dropped to one knee. Reinforcement units froze and copied the action. The distant hills echoed with the thump of thousands of soldiers kneeling as their armor struck the ground in unison. The entire army of the region bowed to Captain Rhea, believing she had accepted their unconditional surrender. Rhea looked around wide-eyed. She whispered to Harris that they must explain quickly before things got even worse. But before she could speak, Lord Varin offered crates of food, water, medical supplies, and rare minerals as tribute. The humans badly needed supplies, and their ship needed materials for repair. Accepting these gifts seemed reasonable, but Rhea feared it would confirm the misunderstanding even more. Yet she could not refuse because her crew would die without help. So she accepted the supplies and bowed her head slightly out of respect. The Valari saw this small gesture and believed it was a sign of acceptance of their surrender. Whispers ran through every soldier. They believed the humans had now officially taken command of the region. They believed the humans had come to rule. And in that moment humanity accidentally conquered the first alien territory without ever planning to or even understanding how it happened. The valley was quiet after the surrender, and the silence felt unreal compared to the chaos that had filled the place only hours earlier. The Star Runner still smoked from damaged vents, and its metal body looked as if it might collapse at any moment, yet the humans felt a small breath of relief for the first time since the crash. Crates of supplies had been delivered by the Valari soldiers, and inside those crates the humans found fresh water, sealed food, medical herbs, and even power cores that looked compatible with their damaged systems. For Rhea and her crew it felt like a miracle, but the more she accepted the gifts, the more nervous she became because she could see from the cameras that the Valari soldiers now treated her as if she were their ruler. Inside the ship, Harris worked with 2 engineers attaching one of the Valari power cores to the ship's dead circuits. The core glowed with a gentle blue light and hummed softly. Harris admired the technology because it was efficient and clean, far more advanced in certain ways than the human systems. As he worked, he said softly that maybe the aliens were not enemies at all, maybe they were simply afraid. Rhea agreed, but she knew the situation was now more complicated than fear. The aliens believed they had surrendered their world. The humans had never asked for such a thing, yet the misunderstanding had grown so large that she was no longer sure how to correct it without causing more panic. Outside the valley, Lord Varin walked beside his guards, giving orders to his officers to begin transferring more supplies to the humans. He also commanded that a safe area be built near the crash site so the humans could rest and recover. Workers quickly set up tall shining towers that formed a wide protective circle. They believed they were building a royal camp for their new overlords. Varin felt heavy emotions inside his chest. He was relieved that the humans had accepted their surrender peacefully, but he also felt sadness because his people had lost their pride. Every soldier who passed Rhea bowed deeply, and every scout who saw the Star Runner lowered his head in respect. As the hours passed, the misunderstandings continued to grow. When the humans reused one of the Valari power cores to restart their medical bay, a light beam shot from the ship into the sky. To the humans, it was only the system turning on. To the Valari nearby, it looked like the humans were sending signals to a distant command fleet. They believed the humans were informing their armies that the first stage of conquest was complete. The news spread quickly across the valley and then to the nearby cities. In the capital, the council members watched the recordings and whispered nervously among themselves. They convinced themselves that the humans were evaluating the planet and deciding what they would claim next. Meanwhile, inside the Star Runner, the crew sat around in a small circle eating real food for the first time in days. Their faces relaxed after the long stress and a small sense of hope returned. One engineer laughed softly, saying they might actually survive this strange place. Rhea smiled, but she felt uncomfortable with the kindness she was being shown. She wanted to explain to the aliens that they were not conquerors. She wanted to return everything they had offered, but she knew that if she rejected the gifts, the Valari might think she was punishing them. The misunderstanding had reached a point where every action could trigger fear and every word could be taken the wrong way. Later in the afternoon, Rhea decided to step outside again. She walked down the ramp slowly, her hands open to show peace. The moment she appeared, the soldiers lowered their heads and cleared a path for her. Lord Varin approached with careful steps and bowed deeply, which still made Rhea feel uncomfortable. She tried speaking through her translation device and told him that the humans were thankful but did not want harm or power. The device flickered several times before forming a weak, translated message. Varin listened and interpreted her words as a gentle order. He believed the humans wished to avoid unnecessary violence but still intended to guide the planet. He nodded with deep respect, thinking he understood exactly what she wanted, when in truth he understood almost nothing. While they spoke, workers brought another set of crates filled with metallic plates and energy tools meant to repair the human ship. Rhea accepted them reluctantly. Every acceptance seemed to deepen the belief that the humans were the new rulers of the region. Rhea tried to explain again, but the translator glitched and produced only half of the sentences. Varin misread every word, believing the humans were issuing instructions about future cooperation. The misunderstanding only grew wider. As the sun lowered behind the mountains, long shadows stretched across the valley and the air cooled. Rhea watched the alien workers building more structures nearby. Some were assembling tall pillars of light, others constructing a platform with silver tiles. When she asked Harris what he thought they were building, he said it looked like a ceremonial stage. The Valari believed the humans would soon speak to them as their new leaders. Rhea felt a heavy weight inside her chest. She had never wanted to conquer anything. She had never wanted command over another world. She only wanted her crew to survive. Yet now she was being treated as the head of a new empire born from fear and accident. Later that night, the Valari set up glowing blue lanterns around the valley. The lights made the area look peaceful and almost beautiful. The humans stepped outside to see them, and some Valari soldiers bowed respectfully as they passed. One soldier even offered a small carved stone as a gift to Harris. Harris looked at Rhea, unsure what to do. Rhea accepted the stone gently because rejecting it might insult them further. Deep in the capital city, the High Council saw all the reports and believed the humans were slowly establishing control. They convinced themselves that the humans preferred soft domination before open rule. And so they ordered all cities near the valley to prepare gifts, tributes, and resources for the humans. Rhea sat on a rock staring at the alien sky, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. They had not won a war and they had not asked for surrender, yet the entire planet was slowly placing itself under their control. And the humans were too weak to stop it, too confused to guide it, and too dependent on help to refuse it. The accidental conquest was spreading beyond the valley, and soon it would reach places the humans had never even seen. The night over the valley was calm and full of soft blue lights that drifted through the air like floating fireflies. The Valari had placed glowing lanterns around the entire crash site because they believed their new rulers deserved a peaceful and beautiful environment. The humans on the Star Runner stepped outside to breathe the fresh air and stretch their tired bodies. They were stunned by how quiet and calm everything felt now. Only a day earlier this valley had been filled with explosions, fear, and soldiers ready to fire. Now it seemed almost sacred. But the calmness did not ease the heavy worry inside Captain Rhea. She knew the misunderstanding had reached a dangerous level and she needed to decide how to handle it before it spread even further. Inside the ship, Harris watched the systems slowly come back to life. The Valari power cores had given the Star Runner a heartbeat again. Lights glowed softly across the control panels and the medical bay was running smoothly. But the engines were still damaged beyond repair and the ship would not be able to leave the planet for some time. When Rhea came inside, Harris showed her the readings. She felt relieved that repairs were progressing but also guilty because they were using alien resources given under false understanding. Harris tried to console her, saying that maybe the aliens simply wanted peace and safety. Rhea nodded, but she also felt responsible for the truth. Outside the valley, Lord Varin was preparing for a great ceremony. He ordered his people to construct a wide silver platform and place long banners on both sides. The banners displayed star symbols they believed represented human authority. Varin hoped the ceremony would confirm peace and ensure that the humans continued to protect the planet. He did not want war, and he believed offering loyalty was the only way to prevent destruction. When he looked at the sky, the stars reminded him that other hostile species existed in the galaxy. With the humans on their side, he believed the Valari could be safe for generations. News of the ceremony spread quickly, and thousands of citizens from nearby cities began traveling toward the valley. They carried gifts, minerals, food, tools, and even artwork made by their best artists. They wanted to honor the humans before the official ceremony began. The valley slowly filled with people, and it looked like a festival of fear and hope. Parents held their children close, whispering that the humans had chosen their planet. Elders looked at the Star Runner with awe, as if they were witnessing the arrival of mythical guardians. Inside the ship, the crew watched the gathering crowd with mixed emotions. Some felt proud that they had inspired so much respect even accidentally. Others felt uncomfortable because they knew the truth behind it. Rhea felt torn. She wanted to correct the misunderstanding, but she feared that telling the truth might cause panic or chaos. Harris suggested that maybe they could try talking slowly, explaining the situation step by step. But Rhea knew the translator was still damaged and the cultural gap was too wide. As evening arrived, Lord Varin approached the ship again. He bowed deeply and invited Rhea to stand on the silver platform so the people could see their new protectors. Rhea hesitated, but she walked with him because refusing might insult thousands. When she stepped on the platform, the crowd fell silent. The wind blew gently and the lantern lights reflected on her suit, making her appear almost otherworldly. Every Valari in the valley lowered their head in respect. Rhea looked across the sea of faces. She could see fear but also trust. She could see people who only wanted safety for their families. She knew she could not tell them to rise up again after they had already surrendered out of fear. She also knew she could not pretend to be their ruler. She needed a middle path. She raised her hand slowly and the entire valley went silent. The translator on her suit flickered but worked enough to project her words. She told the Valari that the humans did not wish to rule or conquer. She said they wanted peace and friendship, not domination. Her voice shook slightly as she said that humans did not see themselves as masters but as visitors in need of help. The translator struggled, but the message reached enough meaning for the crowd to understand something important. A soft wave of whispers moved through the valley. Many Valari misunderstood again. They thought the humans were being humble, avoiding grand declarations because they believed such power should not be spoken proudly. They believed the humans were wise leaders who preferred guiding from behind rather than commanding openly. Lord Varin himself felt honored that Rhea had spoken gently. He stepped forward and declared loudly that the Valari would offer protection, loyalty, and resources to the humans so the humans could continue guiding the planet with peace. Rhea wanted to correct him, but the crowd erupted into cheers. Thousands of voices rose with relief and celebration. The fear of war seemed to fade. People cried joyfully because they believed their future was secure. And in that moment Rhea realized the truth. If she rejected their loyalty, the misunderstanding might turn to fear again. If she accepted it blindly, she would be lying and trapping her crew in unwanted leadership. But if she accepted it carefully and guided the Valari toward peace without using fear, then perhaps she could fix the misunderstanding over time. Later that night, as the crowd celebrated, Rhea sat with Harris on a hill overlooking the valley. The sky was full of stars and the lanterns glowed softly below. Harris asked her if they had truly conquered the planet. Rhea answered quietly that they had not conquered anything. The Valari had simply needed hope, and the humans had been the first ones who looked strong enough to provide it. In the morning, Rhea gave a final message to Lord Varin. She told him that until the humans repaired their ship, they would help the Valari in peaceful ways. They would share knowledge, repair machines, teach medicine, and protect the weak. The translator cut out several times, but Varin understood enough. He bowed deeply and declared the humans the protectors of the planet. The Star Runner crew looked at each other with quiet smiles. They had arrived on this world by accident. They had caused countless misunderstandings. They had created fear without meaning to. And yet they had become something none of them ever expected to be. They had become the guardians of an entire planet.